Hi YouTube, this is BD594. Today I'd like to do something a little different. I recently purchased this Axis Virus Indigo Redback synthesizer, and the reason why I like the synthesizer is because of the all black design with the red LEDs and red display. There we go. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to replace the existing side panels with real wood. I'm going to use this maple. It's a hardwood, but what I'm going to do that's different is I'm going to laser engrave a Black Widow spider on the side, and to make it more interesting, to go with the red LED design, I was going to incorporate the Axis Virus logo and fill it with, mill it out and fill it with epoxy resin and put a light behind it. Now the issue with this is, as you can see, the details are very fine. I'm a little concerned the milling machine would blow out the sides, ruining the piece of wood. So I came up with the idea of 3D printing the logo, and then I can fill it with the resin and then just drill a circular hole. Now here's a smaller version. Drill, here, let me do it this way now. So with the laser engraved spider, I can just drill the hole, insert this 3D printed insert with resin, and just place it there, and then I can put a light behind it. Okay, what I did is I got two rough pieces of maple. I nailed them together. I traced out the original panel, and now I'm gonna do some cuts on the chop saw. So now that I'm done cutting, I'm just going to sand everything smooth up to the lines, and we'll be all set for laser engraving. Now I mentioned earlier I was going to laser engrave the panels next, but I decided to put the stain on first. That way the laser engraver can burn away the stain and the wood. So now I'll just let the stain sit for 10 minutes and then I'll wipe it off. This is it after 2 coats of ebony stain. Looks like a nice dark walnut finish. So the next step I'm going to do is going to laser engrave a spider web over top, and then once that's in place I'll laser engrave the spider I just want to do it in 2 steps, just so I can make sure I have everything positioned properly. Okay, this is my DIY 2.5 watt Chinese laser engraver, and what you're hearing in the background is the exhaust fan. So what I'm going to do is laser engrave the spider web first. So let's get started. Everything's already positioned, and there we go. As you can see, I just laser engraved the spider webs on both panels, and also the model number, Redback. So the next thing to do is to laser engrave the spider. As you can see, the left hand panel is now complete. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, once the panels are complete and they have the LEDs on each side, I want them to blink. For example, up here there's LFO1 and there's an indicator for LF2 and 3. So I want to tap off these signals and maybe hook it up to a pickaxe, and then the LFO1 will drive the LEDs on the left hand side, and LF2 and 3 will I'll tap that signal and have it drive the LEDs on the right hand side. Looking inside, looks like we have a motherboard, the main processing board, the front panel board, and looks like the display board is separate. So the LFO 1, 2, and 3 LEDs are here. So, good. I'll just be able to tap off the signals from here. Okay, now you can see I soldered a wire onto the LFO 1 and 2. Okay, I applied some hot glue to the wires and replaced the CR2032 battery. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap off the power and the ground off of this capacitor here. Looks like this smaller surface mount one is in parallel with it, but I'll double check and solder on 2 wires. Got the wires soldered on, and I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue to hold it in place. Get the scope hooked up to one of those LEDs, the LFO LEDs, and looks like it's controlling the intensity via pulse width modulation. So I'm not going to take that signal and drive another LED directly. What I'll do is I'll put it in a buffer and then just have that between my LEDs and the other LEDs, so they're not loading them down. So I ended up using a ULN 2803. I had a lot of them in stock. So right now I have the LFO from the Axis Virus Indigo. Okay, now I got both LFO 1 and 2 connected. There you go. I'm just changing the rate on the synthesizer. Okay, now the next step is to fill these with epoxy resin. And here's the resin I'll be using. And the color, it's a scarlet red. Here I mixed the resin and the mica crystals, and I poured it in, and we'll let it sit for 24 hours. The panels are complete now. jumped ahead a bit. I initially tried epoxy, and I found that it was too opaque. Here's a smaller one. So I decided to, instead of using the epoxy, to use red plexiglass. There we go. And I 3D printed an LED diffuser here. So I'm just going to fire up the one panel here. There we go. So as you can tell, that looks pretty good. And the circuit, I've already put it onto a board, and the next step is to wire it up. Okay, so everything's done wiring. I got to tidy it up a bit. Hidden behind this ribbon cable is the circuit board. I screwed it down to a piece of plywood which is epoxied to the bottom of the case. Initially I had the 5-volt power supply. I used the one up on the logic board here, but I just tapped it off the board over here. Just simplified the wiring a bit. So just assemble it and we're all set for testing. Okay, everything's done. Let me just power it on for you. Now if you look at the side here, you'll see the spider. Actually, let me get some more light here. How does that help? There. So there's the Redback spider. And you can hear the LFO in the background. And this is the LFO1. It's synced up with LFO1. And let's go to the other side. There we go. That's where I just have the spider web and a larger version of the logo. Alrighty, so that's it. Okay, my next project I'm going to be doing, I may do it in a series of videos because it's going to be a big project just like the size of this keyboard. I'm going to basically convert this Akai MX73 into a very large Euro rack keyboard, similar to the Waldorf KB37, I think it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm a big fan of the Behringer modules, so I'm probably going to put a very large Euro rack, and I'll be able to fit, you know, standard size Euro racks. I'm going to put them in 2 rows, so I'll be able to go up to 6 modules or greater, depending on the size. And right here I'm going to replace the pitch wheel and the modulation wheel with a joystick, so I can fade in between different modules, similar to the D50 where you move it around and you change the voices. So what the joystick will allow me to do, be able to switch the audio from the output via joystick. And of course it'll still have the pitch bender and modulation wheel. So it should be fun.